Hi Gemini, it's Rebecca from Being Human Tarot, and I'm here to give you your November 2018 reading. This month I'm sticking with this 3-card spread that I've been doing, and I'm reading with Christy, I'm going to mispronounce her name, Prokopiak's Illis Tarot deck, which is pretty cool. All of the major arcana are I think they're all musicians from sort of 90s era, which is fun because that's the time that I was growing up as a kid. And the minor arcana, as you'll see for your reading, is not depicted in illustrations that sort of are traditionally showing a situation that's going on. So if it's the 5 of Cups, it'll be a literal picture of 5 cups, so that's a little bit different, and it's not going to be as visually interactive as these readings usually are for the minor arcana, so just keep that in mind. But the major arcana are amazing, and so hopefully that will totally make up for it, and you'll draw one of those. So as I was saying, the 3-card spread is the first position is what to focus on for the month, the second position is what to set aside for the month, and then the third position is an additional consideration for the month. So we'll get into your reading. For your card of what to focus on, you drew the 5 of Cups. Which, like I said, and I think I even gave it the example of the 5 of Cups maybe when I was talking about how these are quite literal cards for the minor arcana because I had already pulled yours and so I was looking down at them. But the 5 of Cups as a focus for your month is basically a message to you that you're honestly not going to maybe be feeling the cheeriest this month. The 5s are the 5s across the board for all the suits tend to represent some time of hardship, something to overcome in some way, a conflict of sorts. And for the Cup suit in particular, it's about sort of all about emotion, and so the 5 of Cups is kind of like grieving a bit of a loss, but it's not a loss that's irreparable. It's not a forever loss. It's more of something that is bringing you down, and that feeling is real and shouldn't be disregarded, but it's not going to overwhelm you. You'll be able to recover from it for sure. And so just to preface anything else with that, so that because I know that sometimes some of the cards can seem, especially the 5s, can feel a little bit intimidating or a little scary. But I mean, with this, there's not really the same picture of like the person grieving, so perhaps it's less intimidating than usual. But so as a focus, it's kind of, the cards are telling you that if you do experience something like that, then just let yourself have those feelings and go through sort of the normal process of letting yourself grieve something. It's okay. Like, you can take the time for yourself this month to do that. As a set aside, you drew the 8 of Swords. Which the 8 of Swords represents someone who is kind of like surrounded by all of this mental strife and conflict, and they're in a position where they think in their mind, right, because swords are all about mental energy and intellect, that they're stuck and that they're bound and that there's nothing that they can do, when in fact that's not the case. They have the power to cut through the constraints and to free themselves from the situation, and it's definitely a card of mind over matter. So it's interesting. It complements, or maybe not complements, but sort of builds on the Five of Cups that you drew by explaining that you might be feeling some hard things, you might be feeling down this month, but keep in mind that you have the power to move past them. You're not bound and helpless. Even if you feel that way, it's okay to feel that way, but just you have to remember to not live there, to let yourself grieve as the focus for sure. Not saying to not let yourself have those feelings, but to just not let them dominate you so that you get to a place where you're perhaps acting like a bit more of a victim in the situation than you actually are. So something to keep in mind. For your additional consideration, you drew the Beyonce as the Death card. I'll hold that there a little bit longer just because this is like the more visually interesting card compared to the other ones. And so, I mean, this reading might seem really intense, but you know, the first two cards are minor arcana, so it's more of kind of an everyday situation, a lower level, not a lower level sadness necessarily. It could be significant sadness, but it's not for a situation that is going to be dominating, or it shouldn't be dominating, right? But with the Death card, you're really being pulled out of a way of being that you've been, you know, specifically in a grieving pattern, potentially. But it might not be that. It could be just that happens to coincide. This sort of sadness that you're experiencing this month happens to coincide separately with the Death card, meaning that you're turning over like a drastic new leaf, because the Death is major arcana. And like I always try to remind, death is really rebirth. So don't be afraid of death either. Don't be afraid of the fives. Don't be afraid of death. We can't experience those exciting new things without shedding the old. And so I think because this is in your additional consideration and not your focus, that this is sort of like on the cusp. This is maybe just around the bend for you. So I would say to keep an eye out for the ways that you could, like in what ways, like use this month as an examination period. Where can you find, like look for, analyze, find the ways that patterns or ways of being aren't serving you anymore, things that you could let go of, so that maybe next month you could let those go. And you could start something that's going to be much better for you. It's going to be a big deal kind of thing. So it's good. Like it's always scary, or it's not always scary, but a lot of us, myself included, can have a hard time with change. And that's perfectly normal and very human. But you have to remind yourself, what are some of the times when you experienced some of the most exciting things in your life? It was usually from a big change, right? So just try to keep that in mind. Also, it's Beyonce. Like how bad can the Death card be with her beautiful face on it? So that's it for your reading for November, Gemini. Sorry about some of the bird sounds. I continually try to be able to keep my parrot in the room for these readings, and he will be okay, and he'll be okay, and then he'll inevitably start making some noises. So hopefully that doesn't screw up the audio too much, because it auto-adjusts. I hope you liked the reading. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. I upload the suite of videos for all of the signs before the first of every month so that you'll get some time with them. And that's it. I will pause this and pan down so that you can see the 3 cards together, and I'll see you next month. Bye, Gemini. So as you can see, there's my cat, and your focus of the 5 of Cups. You're set aside with some glare on the 8 of Swords, and your additional consideration of death. Thanks for tuning in.